What do you think about this, that metal is mainstream in Finland?
Well, for me personally, it's great since it enables me to pay my rent.
Yeah.
So, I guess that on the same level as Norway, Finland is great that you can have Cradle of Filth being number 1, Madonna being number 2, and us being number 3 or whatever on the official charts, which that never happens anywhere else.
Yeah.
Not in the States, not in the UK. And I think that that's pretty healthy.
So, what do you think about the kind of metal as? Is it, because for me it's kind of like a quite deep and personal and philosophical, a little bit like the black metal bands actually have a similar type of conviction to the metal. Is it similar for you?
Well, I love all kinds of music, and that is a combination of those different influences, I guess, that music him does sounds like what it does nowadays. But basically it was started because of Sabbath. So
that was for you.
We were sitting in our bass player's mother's ladder and listening to C cassettes with, I think it was Masters of Reality, and humming along to every guitar solo Iommi played and to every drum fill Bill Ward played. Yeah. And that they were the main inspiration for us in a sense also that they're kind of working class heroes, aren't they? They came from a really grim area was in Aston and Birmingham, and they weren't spectacularly good looking. Maybe. They weren't like a pop band. They had a kind of a weird vibe to them visually and sound-wise. They were very different, taking that sort of like horror movie aspect into the blues, the heavy thing. And maybe in that sense their story was a whole story filled with hope for us. So if they were able to make it, maybe we had have the possibility of doing so as well. So in that sense we owe our gratitude towards Black Sabbath more than maybe Finnish heavy metal bands. I was listening to like bands like Tarot back in the day, and stuff like that. But
because you could have started also before this really started to fly, the Finnish metal.
With Toni Taleva.
He helped us out on our first gigs, and he was the guy sorting out. Teatro was the name of the club, and that was the one place before. That's where we had all the parties. We played with Apocalyptica. That was the first gig, our official gig as His Infernal Majesty. We played a cover set of Typo Negative's songs, and Apocalyptica obviously played Metallica. And that's where it all started. I still got the posters. It's from '95 or something like that. '96.
You're kind of becoming like a cult person, not like just the fans, but for the bands and people that are like we met the Killswitch and Cage. And they all had like the hey, we have him tattoo here, and there's like the LA Ink where you have Cat Von D and you see like your symbol there everywhere. And
well, it's a great symbol.
It is, it's very
that's the
good design.
I don't need any last words on my tombstone. Just need the symbol.
Exactly.
That's the best thing I've done. And probably the best thing I'll ever do. I'm not a graphic designer or anything like that, but it's just the big fan of Zeppelin and their 4 symbols and all that. It's just, and symbols travel so well when you don't have the language barrier.
Well, we've been using this quite long time. Didn't invent it.
Well, that was around for a couple of thousands of years. But it's still
hoping
beautiful.
that the original designer is not coming back. And
well, you never know about mummies, whether to believe in the curse of them or not. But it is a possibility.
Travel the world, have gigs everywhere. The difference between the Finland and other countries that
in itself, just the sheer volume is very cathartic, and in that sense, very shamanistic. So even the church has found out that the people are more willing to believe in their God if they use our language, the pagans' language.
Exactly.
But I guess the volume in itself is you can't say that. Oh, that'd be a good idea. If we play love metal, there should be quiet metal. That's the next thing. How can you do that? That's an impossible. The church has always been against everything that takes people attention away from the church. Whether it be art or music or artistic music. So they've been a good way. Like Stryper used Christianity metal in the 80s in America. I guess that's a good, and there's a lot of POD, if you consider them to be a metal band. They're Christian. In the it's a free world. I don't have to buy into that shit. I don't have to go to the mass Or I can listen to Dark Throne, but I don't have to believe in Satan.
Yeah.
In that sense, very satanic in an Anton LaVey kind of sense that it is the freedom of choice. You know, when it comes to metal, you listen to whatever you want, and there's little tribes within the metal.
Yes,
a lot of them, and they have. And now there's at least Norwegian black metal. Some of the Finns as well. They have neo-Nazi kind of vibe going on, bits and pieces. So it's getting rather interesting how within the big genre, usually known as heavy metal, there's so many different, you know, subgenres.
I still constantly listen to metal, but I don't label the music. So I try to pick up, like, you know, albums that I like, and I don't try to analyze it. What it is then. But
I listen to whatever. I listen to good songs. So the genre is not important. I've said to a couple of people, you know, about, you know, when they're asking about heavy metal, I've said that heavy metal is not necessarily just about the volume, it's about heavy subject matter. It's about heaviness in the mood of the music. So in that case, let's say Johnny Cash's American recordings is a lot more heavy, you know, a lot heavier as an album than 90% of heavy metal music. Or traditional Finnish music, which is very melancholy and very, not necessarily depressing, but it's very wistful and kind of a bit angsty. So, or Wagner. How much more gothic and heavy can you get? It's not necessarily good though. But,
but it is heavy.
Yeah, but so in that sense, you know, heavy music. I like listen to heavy music, whether it be reggae. When you put passion into what you do, then it becomes fairly heavy, more or less. And that's probably the reason why we like heavy metal, is we do have the freedom of doing whatever we want within the genre. Over the past couple of years, the record labels have been more involved, since they've noticed, you know, with bands like Evanescence or Linkin Park or whatever, they've been able to find out that it's not just 15-year-old pimple-faced kids who are listening to metal. It's actually people who have the money to put into the product and thus make people millionaires.
When I kind of started, that was like, you know, 10 years before it was, well, I started when it was invented, but like, you know, our band was about 10 years later. And of course there wasn't any older generation of metalheads, so whatever we did was like, you know, freaking people out and taking pictures in the graveyard and all that stuff worked very well. And, but in general, you don't have any music that would, like, you know, have that type of effect that it had, like in the 70s and 80s when it was more like invented. And is it important? It was important for me, but would that be important for you?
Well, I guess it's a different cup of tea, since nowadays information travels so fast because of all the internet and everything. It was more happening local things. That was probably the reason for it being underground. Now underground means something that could be Cradle Filter or an underground band, even though they're mainstream in black metal. But I guess that the most shocking thing anyway nowadays is intelligence. It always has been. You know, when you're well educated, or at least try to be, those are the weapons against society in itself. You know? A lot more than wearing corpse paint. Penguins have already done it for zillions of years.
I like that concept.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I like that concept. Well put.
Just an idea, you know, just an idea. It's not necessarily right, you know. And then again, now the kind of emergence of the 80s thrash metal is very interesting. The thrash, if you see the kids, they're wearing Metallica things in the 80s, like the pins and things, and that's great. And the dodgy hair as well. So it's, I'm too old for that, man. But yeah, the shock value is gone. Marilyn Manson was probably one of them who did it the best. But nowadays you can't shock people too much. And especially European countries. In America you can probably shock. Because it's more religious there. When I woke up this morning, I was wearing Cradle of Filth's Vessel Masturbation that says in the back, Jesus is a cunt. And that's banned in England. But you can wear it here. That's just probably because people are not traveling with their dictionaries and with them. But the thing about, for example, I've mentioned them a couple of times, is that what makes them fairly different in the genre of metal is the fact that they are fairly well educated in verse, especially Danny is. And then they do have a very, very sick sense of humor.
Yeah.
That, for example, Typo Negative have as well. Paradise Lost have it. My Dying Bride have it. If you're talking about the Teutonic heavy metal, that's very humor-free.
Yeah.
The whole situation with, traditional kind of then Manowar type, of Judas Priesty type of metal. The interesting fact, or not a fact, but the interesting thing about the whole genre is that it's basically a genre for homophobes wearing Tom Finland clothes. And that's very interesting in it.
Yeah.
It's always been really interpreted, heavy metal's been interpreted as being very misogynist against ladies. And I wonder why, because they're all gay. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's funny because it's just funny. It's very interesting. I did love Arnold Schwarzenegger in Conan, and I do understand the appeal of wearing loincloth. But a lot of bands do lack of sense of humor. Like Turisas, for example, Finnish band, new band. They have that similar sort of thing, but they have a lot of humor with it. That goes with it. Heavy metal should be fun as well, which Ron James Dio was. Iron Maiden was fun. I wasn't around for Sabbath, but it was fun. It was going into a party when we were seeing a gig, even though the subject matter might be cinematic and escapist and dramatic and kind of over the top.
Yeah. So we also be kind of mapping the metal mindset. Do you like horror movies? And
yeah, I grew up with gore, slasher films,
because
and all
that
that.
seems to be quite like a like Giger's art and all this is kind of like something that
I got into Giger through Danzig. Danzig's third album has the Giger piece in the cover, and Debbie Harry used that in the 80s. And sure, horror movies and what else? The whole shebang.
Yeah. We actually went to see a very kind of leading psychiatrist here. He also kind of explained that why metal is so popular here through this, not like the old thing that Finland, we live in the darkness and most of the night.
How do you explain Italy then?
Yeah, exactly.
Brazil.
But I think that he explained kind of differently that you can see that there's different reasons in other countries.
In Italy they talk a lot of bullshit, and in Finland we don't talk a lot. So we don't open up ourselves to feelings, especially males. And I guess that through the cathartic volume of metal in itself, that's the way of expressing your love and your hatred and everything. You're kind of like you clean your soul or cleanse your soul. So like soul shower when you go into a heavy metal gig and come out. That's one of them things. That could be explaining the Italian thing as well. Portuguese people are very passionate about their music as well and metal, and they're kind of quiet as well. So that could be one of the things you're not used to. Like let's say in America, sit down with a stranger and just be really open about everything. You see, different cultures are different, and they
well in America at the moment. So
are you blaming us? We're doing fairly well.
not accusation, a praise.
Yeah, sure, but that could be one of them things. Maybe. And Americans have liked different kinds of metal.
When we're kicking with the sarcophagus, the best place where we always had full house was in Pohjanmaa, which is a strong religious area where they needed something kind of like oppositional to the church.
I remember we played in Lappajärvi back in the late 90s, and it was a great gig. We performed on a little stage, and there was like half of the audience were people with corpse pain, and half of the audience were Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, holding their Bibles and having their eyes closed and praying for us. And that really happened. It was really weird. And then they started beating up each other, and we had to stop. We've always been the ones falling in between of different genres. I don't really mind if somebody believes in whatever, if it helps that particular person to cope with life. Life is pretty tough in itself, so whatever it might be, if it's Moomin or if it's Christian God or whether it's an old fertility symbol nowadays called by Christianity Satan or Lucifer, the bringer of light, Lucifer. So it doesn't really matter, whatever makes people happy. A lot of things make me happy.
So Tanya.
Is there something that we didn't ask that you would like to say?
This, it's such a wide topic. You could talk about this thing for ages, and there's, it's just, we're just playing association-free game, trying to get somewhere with it. But it's possible, and you've been meeting so many people. There's so many different attitudes towards the metal. Right? I do think that there's the fact that the Finnish male has a problem of getting the emotions out. And what would be easier and a stronger way than metal to get it out? To really, it could have been punk, like proper Iggy Pop and Stooges. That could have been Sex Pistols. We never really got that. We had Rattus, we had the hardcore scene, but that was more about sniffing glue and getting, drinking moonshine. More wars, more metal. People need stronger things to take their mind off of the fact that the world is pretty muffed up.
Yeah.
As they say in Philadelphia.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Toc, toc.